G'day, I'm Keith Grundy. We're here in the NIOA armoury and we're going to clean these two rifles. I've got a centrefire rifle here, which is a Savage Model 10, 308 calibre. And we've got a little Ruger RPR rimfire here in 22 long rifle. We're going to start with the centrefire and progress through to the rimfire. The major difference between these two rifles is the structure of the projectile and how that projectile is lubricated. So with the 22 rimfire, it's just a simple lead projectile that's lubricated with a wax. Now the 308 has a copper jacketed projectile that travels down the bore at a hell of a rate of knots. So what happens there is the friction that's generated between the steel bore and the copper projectile will actually remove some of that copper from the projectile and deposit it onto the barrel. So by developing a layer of copper in this barrel, we're going to reduce the performance, or certainly change the performance of the rifle. Many rifles get sent through to this armoury with accuracy issues, but quite often a simple copper clean to remove that copper fouling from the bore will bring them back. So our workbench is something that we need to get right from the start. This can be a messy process, so we want to keep it fairly clean, and we're dealing with chemicals that can be a little bit nasty as well. We certainly don't want to get them on mum's carpet or anything like that. With the 308 here, what we've got it set up in our Tipton gun vise. These are a brilliant vise that we can buckle the rifle into that, and it gives it a nice firm fixture. I use a little tackle box style box, stainless steel brushes in here. I've got copper bristle brushes, I've got nylon bristle, and I've got a brass patch pusher as well. Also have some wool mops. I'll explain those a little bit more in a minute. We've got some lubricating oil. Certainly the Uni-Glide adheres to the firearm a lot better. It does stay around for a lot longer. You don't need to apply as regularly as you do as some others. But my preference is the G96 gun treatment. It smells like candy, it's beautiful on the nose, and it's really good on the rifle. I'll show you how it does come in handy through the barrel cleaning. Cotton patches are another vital component of cleaning rifles. They are specific in size to the calibre. So I've got 30 calibre patches here to clean our 308 and 22 calibre patches, as you can see, considerably smaller. You will need a copper solvent. So what this solution is designed to do is to break down the copper in the barrel. It can get a little bit messy. I use a Ziploc bag, put my patches in there and tip some solvent in. And what we want to avoid is dipping brushes or dipping patches into this. It will neutralise the solutions, and that'll keep. You can pick that up in another couple of months' time. I grew up with Dad's gun room smelling of Hoppy's No. 9 solvent, and it is brilliant. It's not a specific copper solvent, but it's a really good all-rounder. I've used this on shotguns, rimfire rifles, centrefire rifles, and it always produces a good bore finish. If you want to go a little bit more advanced, it's the Hoppy's No. 9 Black Edition. So this is designed specifically as a copper solvent. It's very powerful. It's not harmful to the metal of the bore, which is something to consider. Our last component for the cleaning is our cleaning rods. Now, these are a one-piece Hoppy's ball bearing race rod, so the handle's on a ball bearing. It will allow the rod or the brush to follow the rifling as you're applying pressure down the bore. So there you go, that's our kit. Now we're going to get into cleaning the Savage Model 10 308. All right, first things first, we're going to remove the bolt from this rifle. If the rifle does have a detachable magazine, I always recommend to get magazines, any other component that you can remove from the rifle. So we'll get the bolt out in this case. What we want to do is run a patch. So we've got a 308 calibre, so we've selected our 30 calibre rod. Now we've got a 30 calibre patch pusher on the end here. As I mentioned before, I've got my 30 cal patches pre-soaked in our Hoppy's Black. Spike that through the patch. From the chamber end, we push that patch through. So we only want to take these patches one direction. If you push a patch halfway through your bore and decide that you're going to bring it back, quite often it'll crumple up and it'll jam in there. A single push right through the bore is going to soak the bore, and we're going to let that sit for a while. I use a little tub underneath the muzzle here. The muzzle is going to drip some solvent out, plus it catches our dirty patches. Now I've removed the patch from the rod. simply bring the rod back through. I like to clean the rod each time. It will gather solvent on there, and depending on the process of the cleaning, solvent's not ideally what you want all the time in your barrel. So now, if you look on any of these bottles, it'll give you the manufacturer's recommendations for this rest time. So we've put a wet patch through the bore now. We need to let it rest, and what that's going to do is react to the copper, start breaking it away from the barrel. So what we're going to do is step forward now into a barrel that's been soaked for a few minutes. I'm going to run a clean patch through. So I take the same size patch again, spike it back on the rod. It's been a few minutes now. And push that through the bore. Now, a good indicator that the copper is breaking down is this purpley blue colour. So this is where the chemical has reacted to the copper and it's broken it down, it's come away from the bore. So as you can see, it's quite a rich colour. This is good to see. It means that our solvent's working well and we are actually achieving something, but it also tells me we need to repeat the process. So once again, I'm going to spike another saturated patch onto the patch pusher. Back through the bore and let that sit for another few minutes. As you can see, we've still got some colour here. It is fading away, but we're still gathering copper. So I'm going to continue this process until that disappears. Now, through this process, we haven't used a copper bristle brush, and pretty much every cleaning kit that you buy these days comes with a copper bristle brush. They are a brilliant brush and they serve a purpose, but in cleaning a centrefire rifle, it can confuse you as well. What you'll do, if you agitate the barrel with this brush, you're actually depositing copper from the brush. So with centrefire rifles, I recommend not to use the copper bristle brush. Stainless steel is okay, but a little bit harsh on the bore. These nylon bristle brushes are a fantastic idea to agitate that barrel a little bit, to get that copper solvent really in there. So it's a good idea to give it a good scrub with the copper solvent if you don't want to use my method of just patching. Okay, so we've just run another patch of bore solvent through. We're going to run a clean patch. We see our colour has basically disappeared. Now, if I'm going to use this rifle in the next few days, I think we're pretty safe to leave it the way it is. Run another couple of clean patches through there and it'll be fine. If you are going to store this rifle, or if it's going on a long hunting trip that might be subject to some pretty nasty weather, I'd recommend that you take a clean patch with some of your favourite gun oil on there. So just a quick spray, and then we run this patch through the bore. So we're not doing this for lubrication's sake. We're only doing this for protection, basically, against the elements, against rust and that sort of thing. Lubrication in a centrefire rifle is not a fantastic idea, especially not with a petroleum-based product that will combust and it's going to deposit carbon on there. So when you fire a centrefire rifle, we're depositing gunpowder residue, we're depositing copper, and carbon is a natural factor of the combustion of the gunpowder. We don't need to increase that. So we've got our gun oil in the barrel now. I like to patch it out. It still will leave some residual in there, enough to protect your rifle, but not enough to create issues through the process of shooting. Okay, that's it. So our 308 is clean. That will be a sparkling bore in there now. To prolong the life of your rifle, I suggest a good cleaning regime. It's definitely going to keep it shooting well. Some rifles are harder to clean than others, but with your centrefire rifle, to keep it in peak performance, solvent cleaning is the only way to do it. Okay, so we've had a bit of a run through on cleaning the centrefire rifle. We're going to switch over to the rimfire, and I'll show you the differences there. So we've got a little Ruger RPR rimfire here. So RPR, Ruger Precision Rifle, 22 LR. These are available in a few different calibers. A little ripper of a rifle. They do perform exceptionally well. So as I suggested earlier, the 22 LR projectiles are simply lubricated with a wax. Now, some more than others, and they're pretty much all different. they don't always work together. Let's say we've gone from Winchester ammunition to CCI ammunition. There will be a period there where the barrel needs to settle back into the new lubrication. I would suggest that first 5 to 10 shots in changing ammunition will be a little bit topsy-turvy as it settles itself in. Now, one way to rectify that problem is to give the rifle a good clean when you do change ammunition. So it will take all that old lubricant out of there, any of the lead that has been deposited from previous shooting, and then you can start from scratch. Now, in saying that, the first 5 shots will still need to bed in, and it's the remainder after that is where your real performance comes into it. I'm going to show you through the bristle brushes. This is how we're going to clean the rimfire. We don't have copper depositing on the barrel, so we don't need a solvent in this case. So what we'll do is we'll take our 22 caliber rod, we'll take the patch pusher off the end, and I'm going to select a nylon bristle. You can use a copper bristle in this case, so this is going to agitate it, free it from the bore, and then we can push it out with a patch. So I'm going to use this rod. Now when you use these rods, only hold the handle. It allows the rod to rotate with the rifling of the barrel. So by running the handle back and forth, now, ideally these brushes shouldn't be stopped halfway through the bore. So run them right out of the muzzle and back around. Now, if you do use a copper bristle for this job to agitate the wax and the lead in the barrel, I'd probably recommend to run 1 patch of copper solvent through there just to remove any of that copper that has been deposited in the barrel. So we're going back to our 22 caliber patch pusher. And now what we're going to do is with the correct size patch, we'll spike that patch and we're going to push this through. So this is going to remove any of the wax, lubricants off the projectile and lead that has been deposited in the barrel. Now we've got a little bit of grub on the patch. So this is good. It's good to see that we're picking up what we're looking for. We're just going to continue this process of pushing the patches through until we're satisfied that these patches come out clean. So we're about half a dozen patches later now, and we've got a nice clean patch. Those first couple of shots are going to be a little bit hit and miss as it develops that lubricant in the bore again. Then the rifle will settle. If you don't change ammunition, I suggest that you don't clean the barrel. By all means, wipe down the exterior of the rifle, clean out the mechanism, that's a-okay. But by cleaning the barrel, you're going to introduce those first few shots to be a little bit wily again. All right, there we go. So I've given you a bit of a run through on how to clean a centrefire rifle and a rimfire rifle. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. It is my experience of doing this, and I've given you my rundown on how to clean a rifle. There are many, many different variants in the way you can do this, but I think you'll find that it's going to work well for you. I hope you enjoy the latest edition of the NIOA magazine.